Pleasant good day, everyone. Justin Scott back here again with my colleague, Mr. Schaunn-Anthony Thomas, and the manufacturing magister himself, Mr. Ryan Strachan. And we're back here again with you for another 876 Invest exclusive. So, Strachan, how are you doing today?
Been well, man. Busy. I'm a little tired, but it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. I think 876 Invest is a special platform, and anything I can do to contribute to its forward movement is my honor to do so. So I'm really excited about this today's discussion. I think the investment community will appreciate the insight again, and I think we'll make a great impression in the space. So I'm good. I'm good. Just working hard, trying to be consistent.
As well. I appreciate how you're always so willing to come on and help us out whenever you can.
No
Yeah,
problem. My
definitely.
pleasure.
And to all the viewers out there, you know where you need to go to get all this exclusive information, where you want to go to get some of the better takes on what's going on within the market. Hear it from the sources, hear it from us, where we put it into perspective for all of you, so you can, take all of these informed decisions, make all the thoughts you need, and to absolutely become a better investor. All right.
Definitely.
So without further ado, let's get right into the topics, yeah? So today is going to be a very special episode, as we were saying earlier. So last time we would have been covering the Spur Tree IPO, and this time we'll be covering JFP, that is Jamaica Fiberglass Products, right? We're going to hear all about how the deal came to be, what kind of businesses they're in, where they're going from here, and why you should be interested. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Strachan, tell us a little bit about how you got associated with JFP and the good folks, Mr. Metri Siaga and Steven Sigani.
And Ricky Sergani. So my relationship with JFP probably started about no, wait, 2015. Everybody knows, well, should know, or may know, well, they know now, that Mitri is a dear friend, client of mine, obviously with a start as a client first and foremost. But as that relationship would have grown over time, and I guess obviously these things only grow to the extent to which the advisor does a good job. The trust grew and relationship grew, and the it became evident that JFP had bigger plans than just remaining a private business. As such, they would have been courted by other brokers. But I honestly think because of the depth of my relationship with the family, because Mitri, Steve, and Ricky are cousins, you know, the good folks at GK Capital won transaction, and I was very happy to hand over the mandates to the firm. As I say, it was a deal that was desired by many. I'll put it that way. But at the end of the day, there can only be one winner, and we were happy to come out on top again and to bring this deal to the public. So really and truly, it stemmed from a retail relationship that became an institutional relationship that became an investment banking relationship. And as such, we're able to secure it and bring it to the public, and we would see the prospectus published. And it's a great opportunity. It's a non-manufacturer of food in the manufacturing space, and there's not many. I think the last one may have been Fosrich, non-food manufacturer to come to market. So that in and of itself is very exciting, and I think the public should be very captivated by the opportunity to participate in the business with the JFP family.
So if you would just tell us a bit more about the business itself and what exactly it is for those people who aren't familiar with the company.
So JFP is a manufacturer. The name initially would have been Jamaica Fiberglass Products, and that would lend itself to the belief that they would make the furniture you'd find in the KFCs and quick service restaurants across the island. But that extended from just fiberglass to internal furniture as a whole. In fact, they were even responsible for the retrofitting of the Ministry of Health, the mobile clinics or mobile vaccination centers in the highest vans, among others. So what they have become, or they are effectively a very skillful, fit for purpose manufacturer of not just furniture. I think the word I'm looking for is innards comes to mind, but that's not the word. But like, I mean, if you can retrofit a panel van,
Interior decor.
interior decor, if you want to put it that way, that's appropriate. Yes, if you can retrofit a panel van that would ordinarily transport produce or a couple of people, but then you're able to now create a mobile clinic in Jamaica with Jamaican labor. I think that speaks to a level of skill that's easily customized, rather than going and buying a fit for purpose van overseas and bringing it in and incurring all that cost. You can deal with it that here. And in addition to that, they do furniture and general design for like hotels, restaurants. So one deal that they have that's closing now is the Rock Hotel. That will feature in their numbers, I think, for 2022. That really should have come in 2021 here, but that's how it is in business. And I think the numbers will reflect the absence of that. But the point is, the deal is already closed. It's just a matter now, when do they recognize the revenue and the profitability from it. They've done stuff for Spanish sports. So I remember once I was in a Zoom meeting at Spanish at S Hotel Mobile. That's wherever I stay. Whenever I go to Mobile, which is more often than I'd like to admit. And I remember I was on Zoom, and Mitri is on the Zoom, and he could see my background. He was like, are you in the S Hotel? And I was like, yeah, I mean, how you know that? Are you here all the time? It's like, no, but we just did work for them. So I recognize the background. So
That's good.
that's kind of, in a nutshell, should capture just what that business has done and what they bring to the market. They've done work for AC Marriott as well, and the prospectus will outline all the other clients of theirs that they've done work for thus far, but then one can see the work they'll do in the future to come. And they actually have some other deals that the public will become aware of eventually, but not my place to tell yet.
That's fair. That's fair. To me, that's like a big hallmark of a business's viability. How adaptive it can be to the different times and situations that may impact it. So Corona came, and they were able to find a nice little niche and provide a business for them. So as I said, like outfitting the highest buses, providing the, as a matter of fact, they probably would have been seeing them in the banks very early out in the pandemic. They might still be there now, but a lot of the fiberglass shields that would have actually had. I know I saw them in First Global Ligani for sure.
Supermarkets
Yeah, and
In
in
supermarkets,
supermarkets
yeah.
as well.
and
Even
Parliament
at
too,
my
actually.
workplace, we have them. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, Parliament as well. Yeah, so it's all over. Their reach is really. They actually grew in COVID, which is similar to Spurtree. So
Mm.
one may say, "Oh, GK Capital have a knack of bringing businesses actually grew in COVID to market." I mean, that's free enterprise, right?
Free enterprise at its best.
Free
Yeah,
enterprise indeed. So it's very interesting that you said agree in COVID because based on some research I was doing, it seems that before the pandemic, a lot of their revenue was tied to doing more of those furnishings with the hotels. So how is it that they managed to pivot so well?
I think necessity is the mother or the father of invention, and the truth is that it may have seemed that local buyers, whether it be, as I said, the restaurant, QSRs, quick service restaurants, or some of the hotels, or the ministries may have had a need for, or supermarkets may have had a need for a particular thing, and rather than supply chain created issues, right? So it forced a lot of players to look locally or to consider local suppliers of products, and they realized that, well, wait, we can do this here, so
Exactly.
let's do it in Jamaica. We don't need to wait 3 months for the supply chain to get the product to us from China, and then it may not be fit for purpose. It may not be exactly as how we had envisioned it. And then we also would say, oh well, but we can't exactly fly the person here to look because they're going for quarantine and they're not vaccinated at the time. And we're looking at 2020, where there are no vaccines. So you never had the whole option of travel and flying in persons and getting quotes on the spot and all of that. So it opened up a new market and created increased reliance on the local providers of products, the local manufacturers, and JFP obviously would have benefited in that respect. And they are really, in my estimation, one of one. I don't believe that their competitors are local. Their competitors are actually more of the imports, and the extent to which they're able to continue to provide substitution for imports will further determine the extent to which they're able to grow going forward. And it would seem that, I said to people, it's easier to retain a client, an existing one, than to get a new one.
Mm.
And so I'm saying that it's very unlikely that having gained new clients, they're going to lose them because they have one, deliver the products on time and the service and installation, etc., on time. They've been paid. So a client is going to be hard pressed to consider an external supplier if they can get it locally. So, and again, that's full credit to the team that they put together, the design team, the manufacturing team, and of course the sales team that's able to go out and get the business and bring it in. And I think Mitri is definitely one of the front facing directors in that business.
Mm. So with that being said now, right? So I understand that they're very agile in their ability to respond to different shifts within the market. They have some consistent revenues with or some good revenues that, for example, like with Rock Hotel, if you
Right.
guys have been seeing the new KFC that just opened out in Draxall, that massive location, yeah, we think's doing the furnishings for inside. They're actually to my knowledge, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're the only manufacturing company in the English speaking Caribbean that's allowed or enabled to do the furnishings for Starbucks, KFC, and a few other choice niche businesses in the restaurant district sector, I should say, right? But then that says to me now, so okay, there are definitely going to be periods when they have a lot of work going on. But then is it consistent? Is it that they have always ongoing projects, or they always have to be finding new projects and getting new bids to make it work?
Well, they're always looking business, they're always looking business. I think what's helpful for investors is that they are able to show by virtue of a forecast, and not just that, not just a forecast, but business that they have signed for and collected deposits for and
Mm,
are actively producing for. So they have a very good runway. But as contractors, the extent to which one is able to generate new leads will be the extent to which one grows. The good thing though is that, as I would have said, they just secured a contract that is going to be um, probably half of last year's revenue. One deal, and this is before all the publicity that's going to come from an IPO. And the good thing with manufacturers as well is their cost base is fixed, because whether they do zero business or $100 billion business, they still have to keep their factory running. They still have machines. They still have to book their depreciation, which is non-cash expense. They still have the light bill. They still have the staff, whatever, whatever. So, honestly, if they get their business quadruples overnight, then they may need increased factory space unless their machines are able to process at a much faster rate without the need without the need to expand the machine footprint, which in many cases is possible because my understanding is that they have excess capacity, right? So at very least, worst case, they can go from 2 8-hour shifts to three and work around the clock.
Mm.
So the good thing is, as well, is that we are seeing construction move apace in Jamaica. So one, cost base is fixed. Two, construction is the industry that is driving the economy now, and it's not just residential construction; it's construction of
Commercial.
hotels, construction of restaurants. Those two things, and in just leisure spaces, those three things will continue to provide them new income, generating opportunities. As I said, there's this deal that people hear about. It's not in a restaurant. It's not in a MOH panel van fleet. It's not in a coffee shop. It's not in a hotel. So again, it's even outside, but it's a space frequented by people. And then when people hear about it, they're gonna be like, "Wow, even greater avenues for revenue." Because you're going to need to renovate your space every 5 years. So that's going to also provide recurrent revenue for them. I mean, if you have chairs in a QSR or stools or whatever, you're going to have to replace them every so often. You're going to need to remodel. So what I'm getting at is, as the consumption in the economy grows, a JFP naturally is going to grow as well with it. And that's what we're starting to see now. And then the question you have to ultimately ask is, will larger entities or will related entities have an interest in acquiring a material stake in a JFP? And then what will that look like? So there's many avenues for the business to proceed forward. But the good thing is, with their base costs being fixed, once they go above a certain revenue line, all of that is profit.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Makes
That's
sense.
nice.
Makes sense.
I like that, man, because I know I've actually utilized their services before. So back not too long ago, I was working for a startup company, Prelabs Limited, and we were
Mm,
manufacturing smart electronic solutions. But then when the
mm,
pandemic hit, we shifted the business model and we wanted to provide, knowing the technology that we have, knowing the capability, we wanted to provide um, things like hand washing stations, hand sanitizer stations. And the first place we returned to say, okay, well, where are we going to get the actual external bits for we're going to, outfit the actual product itself? We had nowhere to turn to but JFP. So I actually had the privilege of going down to the actual factory myself. I think I spoke to Steve and I briefly caught Metri and actually took a look around the place. First of all, the whole warehouse factory is massive, right? And they have examples of the actual work that's down there in the restaurants that they've done. And they have the design team as well. So they have their own in-house design team that's able to, you come into them, you tell them what this place is like, you tell them what you're trying to do, and they have the design team right there that's able to mock up what you're asking for, project it for you, and then you can workshop the actual product itself, which I think is a big plus. You know.
I mean, big time. As I said before, you're speaking about a proven track record, proof of concept. And as you rightly said, Justin, when you go into the facility, I mean, you may see, you may walk around and be like, that looks familiar. That
Yeah.
table and set looks familiar. And you're like, where have I seen it before? Oh, it's I think KFC, Half a Tree Road.
Hmm.
you know. So it's great because what it also represents is a Jamaica where we are now doing more of our business at home. A lot more of what we use and consume is being made at home. And it speaks to a resurgence or a renaissance or just a resurrection of manufacturing locally. And I think by now people may know that I'm very, very, very passionate about manufacturing, in Jamaica as an industry. And generally speaking, I think manufacturing is where we get the true value. Yes, I mean, retail matters and wholesale matters, but when you make something, then you're really making a difference.
It's productivity right there.
Absolutely. You're hiring people, you're managing your foreign exchange expenditure as best as you can, because we all have to buy fuel. So we'll always have to generate foreign exchange to spend for things that we don't produce. But you're able to now reduce the extent to which, no, not even just that, you're able to reduce
Excuse me for
the
a few minutes,
substitute
guys.
expenditure for
Okay.
income generation locally.
Hmm. Definitely, man. Definitely. But even outside of that, I know they at times will get contracted to do some business for companies overseas as well. Can you speak to the a little bit towards that?
Yeah, so I mean, like, the business with these multinationals, as you would have said, like the KFC, the Starbucks, whatever.
Hmm.
But these businesses have a presence outside of Jamaica, so they may be in Trinidad, Barbados, etc., Curacao, Saint Lucia. So these guys may expand and they may still contract the services of a JFP as they go into these greenfield areas. So again, that's more business. And for them now, charging in foreign exchange and then getting the revenue back home, because what international franchise companies want, and international franchises, I should have said, want, is consistency of appearance across a particular region. I mean, the Caribbean is viewed as, oh, Caribbean is viewed as one region, so the uniformity is very important across that space. So that using one contractor across the region it's been very beneficial to them because and more cost efficient as well because they don't need to be tying up or tying themselves to an overseas contractor that's probably charging 5 times the amount and delivering the same quality or sometimes even subpar quality, but because their expense base is so much broader and wider and deeper, they have to charge more. So having a local supplier, relatively speaking, even within the Caribbean context, is much more of a benefit to them than the alternative. So that's actually the ways that JFP is expanding their offerings. It's across the Caribbean, effectively just following their clients. I mean, we have a lot of multinational businesses that operate in Jamaica, multinational players who come here to the business. So really, it's just a local supplier or contractor following their clients. And that to me is wonderful business. 'Cause it ties up with the whole principle of it being easier to retain a client than get a new one.
I get a new one.
Right. If they get a return business, that's even better.
Yeah, definitely, man. And to the rate of expansion that I've been seeing, that's definitely not a problem there at all. Because
Absolutely.
and then you have to follow the money. And so even some of the relationships I would have established here, like Sandals, for example, the whole hotel chain, it started here, it started branching out even further and further. And you know, the best promotion is word of mouth and actually seeing the results in somewhere else.
Yeah.
So competitors of these other like types of businesses will be able to see it, recognize it, and then perhaps give them business as well. Um, and even on the point of that, it just brought me back in my mind when he said that some other local businesses will see a company like JFP list and will just totally be unable to hold out from taking a piece of it.
Yeah, and they want to as well do business with them, and some may want to, where they think there's an overlap in the offerings, they may want to try and acquire them or make a cut a deal with one of the directors on, buy their shares. I mean,
Mm,
I think that's great. That's free enterprise, and that's just the natural movement of industries. And I have no issues with that whatsoever. I think what it should say to the investor though is that the future of the company is bright
mm,
because they have managed to entrench themselves in the midst of massive corporations. So Sandals is always doing something. They're always renovating a hotel. They're always building new hotels. They're buying new hotels to renovate those properties because they're expanding. KFC, Starbucks, they are expanding as well. They are going across the regions and where they have old stores, they're renovating them. They're going to give a JFP a call to bid on
mm.
a project. Rock Hotel. Everywhere in Jamaica you look,
Exactly.
I think Jamaica is set to build 18,000 rooms over the next 4 years, whatever number is, I don't remember. But JFP is going to have a role to play in that. We have casinos coming, and Harmony Cove, and North Coast and all that. So there's so much business to be had. I think for them, it's not so much about how much business can they get.
But it's
It's,
retained.
it's more about, well, are they gonna take on more than they can chew? There's just so much business out there.
It's
Yeah.
always better to have a demand problem than a supply problem. Eh?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly, exactly. It's more of a supply, in a
supply
sense.
problem than
It's
a demand problem. Yeah,
supply to
yeah.
the
My bad,
extent
my
that
bad.
they can meet the demand, right? So
Right.
it's not a demand problem, as you would have said. It's not that at all, because Jamaica is still going through a whole measure of industrialization. There's talk of expanding townships. You're bringing water to all over the place. So you had water in Junction, running water, that is. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden you have a KFC in Junction. So then they upgrade St. Thomas infrastructure, and KFC wants to go to St. Thomas.
Right there.
You have the Draxal KFC, and then, this crowded already, and there's issues on the highway, everybody going to KFC in Draxal. So where I'm going with it is that these things, I mean, one restaurant is a material amount of revenue for them based on where they are. And so, once I said before, once they cover that fixed cost base, then anything above it is just
Mm-hmm.
gravy.
Gravy on
Well,
top.
more than gravy, It's like a meal.
All right. So if we're talking straight money now,
Mm.
Sean is back. Great. So if we're talking straight money now, how much are we thinking that JFP is looking to raise here? I remember an article that came out in about March last year, 2021. They were saying about little bit underneath 300 million they're looking to raise. That's
Right.
still the case.
Yeah, they're going to be raising about 280 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the article was intended to give some more. Sorry. It's intended to put some flesh on the bones on the transactions, so to give the public a bit more insight as far as the amount they're looking to raise through whatever mechanism. But now we know it's an IPO.
Mm-hmm.
At about 280. I think GK Investments has about 70, so it's about 210 for the market. The main directors own the business, and as a result of that, now GK is going to probably own a couple percentage points as well. We're going to market at a valuation, I think, of 1.3 billion or so. Full credit to them. Um, this last year was a little soft because I think the Rock Hotel transaction, they didn't recognize all the revenue, because whilst they've done all the work to get the interior done,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they would have recognized the revenue in essence last year, but they'll do it this year. So it's a timing difference, really. But the numbers will bear out the magnitude of the opportunity, because we all know business, right? Sometimes things don't go as planned, and timing differences can be a major issue. However, the opportunity is just so grandiose. It's just such a glaring opportunity, such a unique opportunity to own a local manufacturer of this kind. That, again, as I said, is not in food and manufacture and agriculture, which is about 63% of the manufacturing GDP in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica. That warrants, I would say, due consideration. And I could almost even say, though this may not necessarily apply, a premium valuation based on what it brings to the table. I think investors will benefit greatly. Um, I think the margins are reasonable, but again, we need to establish a fixed cost. And then the smart analysts out there can look at the fixed cost line from the numbers and assess, okay, so they need to earn about 150 million to make a profit, which is, fair. That's every manufacturer, really.
Fair, fair.
Mm-hmm. playing off a point that Ryan just made a while ago with the premium valuation, right? I want to draw back
Mhm.
to the Spur Tree listing. So Spur Tree, they're looking to raise was it again about two seven? No, like it wasn't 277 million. It was about like 300. I'm trying to remember the total amount they're looking to raise in the 300 millions, right?
300 and
Spurgeon
change, I think.
335.
330.
And so now they ended up actually managing to garner over $1 billion, right? People were that interested, people were that determined to get into, right? They ended up raising over $1 billion, well oversubscribed. And that makes me want to talk a little bit more about actually valuing the company when it's coming to market. So clearly it seems that Spurtree could have raised a lot more than they wanted to. And I imagine based on where JFP is, they could probably do the same as well. You have anything to say about that, Ryan?
No, I think that's fair. I think JFP is going to be in the same. I don't. They're not going to be at a billion, but the profitability is going to be there just based on their margins. You know, as I said, I mean, above a certain number, all their revenues flows down to the bottom line. You know, so to speak. But again, it says if they manage to get up to a billion, then you know, I mean, you can look for a profit level of how much, you know, a tremendous amount, $700 million, for argument's sake, because that's just how it is with a fixed cost base. The machines will still run. It's just to ensure there's enough business to to what's the word, to offset the expense of running the machines, because they're gonna run anyway. You know, they're gonna cost you in maintenance. So that's one of the things with manufacturing, like non-food items.
Mm.
You have to keep the machines going, or else it's more expensive to not keep them going. You know,
And then it's straight value added, so you're then now also able to set your premium and set your prices.
definitely, because that's included in the bid.
Hmm.
So they just had a
True.
million US dollar bid that you'll hear about shortly, which is which is
So
handsome.
this
You know?
question,
No,
this
sorry, a successful $1 million US bid. That is.
brilliant, massive. I look forward to hearing about it.
A company like Spurtree, looking to raise in 300 millions, was able to garner 1 billion. Why not raise at a bit more of a premium, right? I believe that they and maybe JFP itself could probably come at a little bit more of a premium, still keeping a nice multiple and still raise a good amount of money, right? Well, you could raise more. Why keep prices like that? The offer to the public anyway.
You know, that's a great question. That's actually a superb question. The truth is, companies want to adhere to a multiple of their earnings when going to an IPO. So one could say if Spurtree was generating profitability of 75 million, then at the maximum they should be going to market at $1.5 billion, and 20% of $1.5 billion is, you guys are math great, so times 20% is $300 million, right? They went to market at 335, so they're doing $10 million a month. So they're actually coming out at 120. But then you can't go at that valuation, because then one could say, but that's not an average of the last 3 years. When you average out and whatever. I think, and something I try to stress is that the IPO is not about maximizing the cash in hand at the outset, because it's about maximizing the cash the client has earmarked for their needs. But the
Mm.
truth is, if the IPO is a good company, you are going to find that whatever you went to market at, your valuation is going to multiply in no time. And as you grow and perform, it's going to go up even more. But if you need $300 million to do what you need to do, you're still going to need $300 million. You don't need 500 million. You need 300. And the truth is as well, raising larger sums brings a lot of pressure with it that many firms may not be ready for.
Hmm.
You give a man $1, say, all right, I can lose $1. You give a man $10, you gotta worry. And you can say, yo, well, go on. Why am I not hear about, whether the lawnmower broke down last week or if light they gone to the factory and all that? 'Cause all of a sudden you care more.
Yeah.
But the important thing, as one of the things I said online, is as the people care about the IPO close 1 minute after opening or whatever. And I say that really doesn't matter. What matters is that the client got the money that they can use to execute their use of proceeds. There have been cases where people have stretched the limit of their valuations for the companies they list, and the companies have underperformed over time because they took all the money up front. You have to leave some money for the shareholders who want to come in on the secondary market. So we took a very measured approach in terms of our valuation of Spurtree. We tried our best to be fair in our valuation, and I think we managed to accomplish that or achieve that at the same time allowing for investor upside. So while there's what the bigger picture is though, and Mitri Siaga is actually the chairman of Spurtree, so
Yeah, we noticed that.
yeah. But what it signals very strongly is that Spurtree can actually come back to the market. They may mean they need to go graduate to the main market because they never really listed for the tax benefit. They'll take it, but they listed for a lot of other reasons. I'd rather not get into past what's in the prospectus. But what it also signals, and they have read the signal, is that they can go back to the market and say, listen, we need $1 billion to pursue this opportunity, and they're confident they get it from the market. And they may say, we need $1 billion for 7.5% of the company. And I'm not telling tears out of school, it could happen. I mean, I'd expect to get the deal, but very well. It's still my deal, So yeah, they're not getting my deal from me there, Hush.
All right, I'm glad you take it back to deal making a little bit because I know you said your relationship with JFP started in 2015.
Yeah.
But again, in doing some research, I find that originally there was some intention to list around 2011. As you know, there was articles, as Justin says, early in 2021 signaling their intention to come from last year. What makes now the right time for JFP to come to market?
Well, I mean, the fullness of time, their revenues and their profitability to support a public listing is no longer, at 2000. I said to people, they were not aware of what the market was like in 2011. So I'm going to give you a true story. Believe it or not, and this may sound unbelievable to you, but trust me, it's my first deal of like that. I brought Creamy IPO to SSL, right? And that's on public record. There's no denying that's my deal. Everybody knows that. Creamy raised $70 million, guys.
Right? Wow.
And it was a struggle to raise the money.
That's insane.
Imagine that.
Wow. And to put that in perspective, as we just said, Spurtree looking to raise 300 million, raised over $1 billion.
I mean, I said that's light work.
That's light work.
Yep.
We've seen companies move billions on this market over the last few years in raises. And you're telling me that just a few years ago.
it was a struggle.
Mm.
Okay? I'm not talking no normal struggle, to raise. If we came to, and this was a number one economy ice cream brand in the country, right? So you said to yourself, so at that time, you probably weren't getting bang for your buck. Because really and truly, creamy, if cream was coming to market now, or even 2030, 3 years later, they could come to market to raise $500 million, and they raise it like that,
Mm-hmm.
space of 3 years. So markets are very transient. It's not a lateral line like this. It's up, down, and investor sentiment in Jamaica. We still were not at the time used to the equity market as a way of raising bona fide capital. So sure, Alaska did it, but SSL, smaller brokerage house, perhaps never had the sway or the pull to attract that kind of fund. But the size, the opportunity in and of itself should have done it on its own. I
Mm.
mean, we've
Mm-hmm.
seen
Definitely.
companies offering none of the value a creamer did know that are raising 250 million, 300 million, not even Spurtree, because Spurtree obviously is a great value opportunity. But you're seeing companies that are not anywhere near where Creamer was raising more a lot easier. No. I said that to say that JFP then perhaps realized that what they would have to give up to raise the money they were looking for wasn't worth it.
Mm.
And they were wise enough and mature enough to realize that and to pump the brakes and recalibrate.
Shut your brakes, man.
And I said to you, that there's a major company that listed in about, well, I can say that Wysinco in going public went public at the time, among other reasons, because they believed that the market would give them the true value for their company at that time. That
Mm.
was would not have been realized 4 years prior, as I would have spoken to a while ago.
Mm.
And what I just shared with you is not second-hand information; it's first-hand information. So I said to say that yes, they may have been disappointed by not being able to go public at the time, but I think time served them well in that it allowed them to be able to build their business out more, continue to execute and perform, or to, what's the word I'm looking for, to confirm proof of concept, to confirm proof of profitability,
Mm.
and give us investors assurance that this is not a fly-by-night enterprise, but rather this is a business that was looking to go public 10, 11 years ago, opted not to, but is now going public now. You see where I'm going with it? So
It's only grown since.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, and I think that is to their credit. And least of all, I mean, they have one of the most prominent public figures in manufacturing in Jamaica as a director of the business.
True.
Indeed, indeed. So, given that now, and as you were saying, it's a bit easier to raise money now. And given how they were stayed private, and you said they built out some profitability, but yeah, I said alluded to some excess capacity earlier. So, is there anything you can tell us about what they're looking to do with the funds that they raise?
Well, they have a lot of obligations. They've transferred their land out to an SPV, and they have the operating business, and they have some debt to clear, to external parties, and the extra working capital would again now allow them to. You see, manufacturers, if you see a manufacturing company coming to market, I mean, you'll forgive the way of phrasing this, but they're going into the big times. In other words, they are no longer now worrying about, they no longer intend to worry about cash flow to buy inventory, pay payables, pay staff, etc. And that's the reality of a lot of manufacturing firms locally, especially the smaller ones. They are not cash flow positive. Going public will automatically correct that cash flow issue. Okay, see, what a lot of people don't appreciate, is that limited cash flow can cramp profitability because you have to get bridge loans to bridge the gap, but then you're paying interest and commitment fees. And if you get a bridge loan of $50 million and you're paying a commitment fee of 1.5 million, or 1 million, and then you're paying interest of 3.5 million a year, right away you're talking 4.5 million of your profitability eroded. Now, if you think about it, if you go to public at 15, go to market at 15 times earnings, 4.5 million, you're talking a very minimum 62.5 million of market capitalization foregone. So the whole thing of getting equity is to guard against that erosion created by interest payments, commitment fees, late payments, blah, 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 blah. So any manufacturing company used to come into market is going to be coming to market for working capital, expansion, capital if the need arises. And JFP is really no different. Their story is just that they're a manufacturer, their contracts are getting bigger, and they need now a cash injection to allow them to fulfill these contracts, whether they pay in a timely manner or not. That's really the brass tacks. Anything else is, fine print.
Okay.
Okay, cool, no problem.
So nothing directly concrete like acquiring another business down the line, leasing some new warehousing or manufacturing space. So nothing concrete I can tell us.
They have space already. They have more land behind them that they can expand onto, and the
Okay.
cash in hand will help them should the need arise.
Okay.
Really and truly the basics of working capital, debt liquidation. So it's really cash flow management, but it's also going to allow for the public now to come in and participate with them in the growth of their business.
Okay. I like
Cool,
that.
cool.
I like that.
As I also noticed, this Rock Hotel deal that you keep referencing, would that be the deal that they have to build 25,000 rooms, or is that a makeup of several things? Are you aware?
Yeah, no, the Rock
In
Hotel I
Jamaica.
think is 166 rooms or whatever it is, but maybe a mixed use facility.
Mm-hmm.
But there's gonna be that 18,000 rooms on the north coast. So you have H10,
Okay.
you have all these different hotels going up, and they have bidded on the contracts. And again, they have this deal with the
Yeah. Yeah,
with
even on
that.
the I remember reading recently on the North Coast. I remember reading a post about a hotel. So there's a foreign party that wants to build a hotel on the Negril property for Dolphin Cove. So they've been trying to get the hotel established. There's a good amount of space there. They want to build a hotel. It's right on the side of their adventure park, and it hasn't exactly come to fruition yet. It's not ironclad just as yet, but based on the due diligence that I'm seeing, or just the way how the information presented itself to me, it's definitely still on the table. And so things like that, man. There's just constant increase to hospitality, accommodations, commercial properties, and the ripple effects from that. It's very prosperous, as Ryan would say. Yeah.
Yeah, man, no, man, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you can't imagine, you can't grasp the amount of business that is before these guys right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, the owners of the businesses doing business locally, they have to spend the money. It's just a matter now of what gives them the best bang for the buck.
Mm-hmm.
10 times out of 10, if you can get it locally, a cut lead time, you don't need to fly to get information on how your project is progressing. And then if it's a listed company as JFP is likely to be, then you know that your due diligence is guaranteed. You know that your assurance of oversight is guaranteed. The principles. The only thing you may not know about the principles is the blood type, but just for a business to go public, there's so much information that you have to process that it gives great assurance to business partners. So what's not to be forgotten as well, gentlemen, is that they will also do more business going forward by virtue of the exposure that comes from their public listing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people forget when you are going public and you announce it, you're in the newspaper. Oh, JFP prospectus now out. Free advertising. When you do analysis, which people want to read, that's free advertising. Because imagine them paying for a newspaper, full page paper, a full page ad for 2 weeks. They're gonna pay for that. But they get that just from announcing they're going public.
Exactly.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? It's, which
Look
is,
at us
which is
here right now.
yeah, of course. I mean, even this platform, all the eyes looking at it, eh? It's a
Boy, I'm
wonderful
telling you.
thing.
And if they don't, they should be.
Yeah, come on. If they're
They
not, if
should
they're
be,
not looking, they're like irresponsible. So
Mm.
honestly.
if they're not looking at it, they're irresponsible. We can't do anything about that. We just have to pray for them.
Yeah, man, for
Indeed,
sure.
indeed. But bringing it back though, that's the
Yeah.
that exposure that you're talking about. That it comes from being public. That's something I wanted to talk about. Is there
Sure.
any anticipation that that exposure will build the JFP brand? Because I'm sure the name of the company is not something that a lot of people are commonplace familiar with unless you've had to do some interactions with it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna
so
build its time.
and into other markets as well using that
Definitely.
brand that built forward.
All right, let's think about it, right? So if a company is looking to go into a new jurisdiction to the business. So there's a foreign group looking to come to Jamaica to do business, right? They're gonna look at, okay, I get the land, so they buy the land and thing. They get their approvals, right? They're now gonna say, okay, what I'm gonna need this list of inputs, and they're gonna say, okay, which of these inputs can I get locally? Then they say, which company supplies these inputs? Which of these companies are publicly traded? So I'm going with it. So
Mm-hmm.
effectively, it gives
Indeed,
JFP a leg up because
indeed,
they
indeed.
are
And that
publicly
is
listed.
something that's major because it gives them that kind of accessibility.
Absolutely. And that right away lowers the bar of due diligence required.
Right.
Is where I'm going with it. So in that respect, JFP is going to benefit. The brand is going to grow because people are going to be like, "Who is JFP? I never heard of them before." But by the time I read the prospectus and have your bright analysts like David them
Mm.
break out the numbers, everybody going to know about JFP.
For sure, for sure. What I
It's
really
like
love
this
about the
on
product
steroids. Huh?
is yeah, what I really like about the product as well is how flexible it is. It's so there are so many different ways you can apply fiberglass and all of the other manufacturing and constructions that they have as their output, right? So true story, I remember going out to the surf association out by Bull Bay, I was
Yeah.
talking to Mr. Billy Wilmot, and they told us about some long time that are waiting to get some of the surfboards, right? I imported some new boards. Some of the ones were broken, and I believe it was my dad who was, bringing up the whole conversation and said, well, we actually have a manufacturer here that could manufacture actual surfboards from the products, from the material, set it up the nice way they want it, and do it. And it's just a matter of, viability, because it ideally would, for do something like that, you'd want it in bulk, right? So that may not have
Yes.
worked out the way it was, but the the the, the flexibility of how many things you can actually produce from a manufacturing outside that, it's crazy, man. Possibilities are
Yes.
endless.
Massive.
Yeah.
It's massive,
Indeed,
and
indeed.
it spells loudly the opportunity facing the investing community, and what they have the opportunity to participate in.
Mm, absolutely, man.
Indeed, indeed. Do you got anything else? Is there anything that we don't touch on yet?
What they offer. But as you also realize, like Spurtree is this big brand that everybody knows and love, but they don't really have this. They don't have a robust marketing presence, And I mean, it begs the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
I know, like, how much business could they do if they actually marketed their business?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, but these guys
Even
are
this, as a matter of fact, them listing has converted so many people I know from Walkerswood to Spurtree. Just the fact that they're listing and they're like, oh, I'm gonna try it. It's insane
yes,
to me.
yeah, because again, they're on the tip of everybody's tongue for 3 weeks, and they
Yeah.
would
Yep.
list them. I don't know, probably list them next week or whatever, and again, more attention, more eyes on them. I remember saying with JFP, so it's like because it's not what it was like 13 years. I mean, 9 years ago. These guys don't. I mean, I said, I said a lot. These young guys don't know what we had to go through to raise capital for new businesses a long time ago, because investor tolerance just was not there
Mm,
then. It's there now. I mean, I've seen crappy businesses get funded,
mm.
which is good. You need that in a capital market for it
Big up
to
I
thrive.
cream.
You know,
Yeah, you
I
need to
never
get.
heard that, so I can't speak to that.
I didn't hear a word.
We're
Yeah.
not. We're in the same boat, Justin. So it's what it is.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a massive thing.
For sure. For sure.
It's a big.
Um. Yeah, I
Sir.
feel that there's a lot of value to be gotten out of this. The more companies that list, especially outside of the typical type of companies that you'll see, like agriculturing, food processing, um, and the regular
Finance.
run companies.
Yeah,
It's getting more opportunities out there for people to understand how these businesses work and how they're so interconnected, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really
That's the
appreciate
beauty. I mean, we don't have enough capital. I mean, we don't have enough listed companies or newly listed companies to absorb the amount of capital that's interested in them.
it.
Believe it or not, even with Spurtree being where it was, you still had investors who did not participate because they said, sure, I'm not gonna put the money, I'm not gonna get the allocation I want. So I'm gonna sit it out.
Boy,
Yep.
I hope they have fun running it down on markets because they
No,
can't get
they'll,
from it.
they'll, they'll get their amount because they're gonna be sellers, but
Okay.
there's still buyers. I mean, I have clients who want to buy,
Mm.
so me I gonna make some money shortly because we're buying a lot. Clients gonna make a whole lot more, but
Oh,
there's some
when Uno buying, I hope I'll just join on for the ride.
buy. I said to people, buy as you can. I mean, I haven't bought because obviously I brought the deal, I've done the deal, so I'm gonna buy in the open market like everybody else. But I think, and I mean, I'll buy JFP too after the IPO.
Mm.
Um, because again, when you source transactions and originate transactions, you have to be very careful because of conflicts of interest. I can't, I still have to keep that separation.
Mm,
So, but I'm a big believer in both. I think both offer a unique perspective to the business landscape locally. And
right.
I think both as well are landmark Jamaican companies that will have further capital market opportunities in the future, whether it be a merger, acquisition, sale, whatever. And that's going to continue to create wealth for a number of people. And I hope to be in that number. They're both my clients. I have clients who have invested in them, so they will be fine in the end.
Right, good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the prospectus myself and going through and picking through and really seeing just how many types of businesses Spurtree would have been not Spurtree, JFP would have been manufacturing for and providing for, to get a proper scope of their operations, see how far they could go, or maybe even try and see how well they can leverage some of these connections and business.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, they do business for they're one of those companies that's hidden in Jamaica. Jamaica does a very good job of that, of hiding. All right, think about it. Which company makes bottle caps in the world? Nobody knows.
Mm,
But whichever company it is, the owner is very wealthy.
mm,
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The point I'm making with that is you have companies who make products or they for other businesses. So you call it what is best described as a business to business company. Best way to put it. So consumers would not engage with them. So a lot of times they may be hidden from public view. They're no less valuable. The public just doesn't know they exist. What now happens is the public now knows they exist. So a great example of that would be Spur Tree's food service business. So when they deliver the bulk seasoning to a restaurant or something, and it's used on chicken meat or oxtail, nobody really knows where it come from. They just want to know the food tastes good.
mm.
It's business to business, a business to business transaction. So what JFP really is doing is bringing a business to business player to the market for the public to invest in. And that is extraordinarily valuable because one of the hidden hands in the economy is now known to more people. And I think it also speaks to development in or broadening or deepening again of the economic Jamaican economic what's the word? Just the infrastructure or the
Yeah, the
ecosystem.
ecosystem. It's an ecosystem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits many.
Agreed, agreed.
Yeah.
I also, as we know from the Spurtree listing, I love when companies that do different things come on the market. JFP is another one of them, and you're right about it being one of those invisible companies. We touched on some of the places they did work for earlier, but we know they've also done work in the past for Sunset Jamaica Grand. They've done work up at the lab up at JC, the Science Lab. They've done work at Acropolis, Brood Awakenings. They've done some stuff with ATL, um, Icon Mall, Island Grill. So I mean, it's really, really a lot of places that we go to and use very, very frequently. That you'll go and you'll see products from them and just not know. So I'm very, very excited to get a better understanding of this company and um, what it can be going forward.
And a business like that will always present value. And I think, people speak about diversification and all that. They're not your tables and chairs are not going to be impacted by COVID. you're still gonna need them for your establishment. You can't build a restaurant without tables and chairs.
Mm,
You can't refurbish a restaurant without
True.
tables and chairs. So, you're gonna need them whichever way you swing it, whichever way you cut it. And JFP will have a role to play, and they already have first mover advantage. They are already however many years strong, whether it be 20, 25 years or whatever. So they are already there, and now everybody knows about them. And the fact of the matter is they've done business with everybody. Everybody has in some way, shape, or form done business with JFPs, just that the public may not know. Public's gonna know now because they're gonna read the prospectus and make sure it'll be in the media and all of that. But beforehand, they may not have known. They may be like, okay, we know Mitri because he's JMA or JME, past president, and the
right.
thing, but we don't really know Mitri's business. Well, now they get the chance to know Mitri's enterprise. Business kind of personal, so enterprise, enterprise,
Yeah.
enterprise. So what I mean.
Yeah, man, for sure. And if you guys would like to hear a little bit more about JFP directly from Metri himself, you'll be seeing a video coming up very soon. Perhaps drop it before this, perhaps drop it after. You will all be in the know because you should all be subscribed, checking us out on our social media pages, following Ryan, following Sean, following myself, following the 876 pages, and keeping up with us, right? So that way you can get all the information you needed about companies that are listing, companies that have been listed, and learning all you can, right? Because this is how we generate value, people. So we unearth the gems, bring them to you. It's up to you to do what you do with them. All right. So I think,
Definitely. And look out for the 876 Invest prospectus breakdown when the JFP prospectus is released. We'll be tearing into it and looking at it deeply.
definitely.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that's been a great session. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Once again, Justin Scott here, 876 Invest, here with Schaunn-Anthony Thomas and Ryan Strachan. Great.
Sorry, TikTok. Forgive me.
Glad we
Yeah, it's good to be here. Let's make some money. Let's add some value.
let's make some
Good
money.
content in the community. It's a pleasure. Good to be with you
Big
guys
up
again.
Kalila.
And hopefully we'll have another deal to talk about soon.
All right, so like to hear. All right, guys, next time.
Cool.